Old school Pokemon is always a nice field to go back to, and after playing through Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, I decided upon myself to dive into the next installment, that being Gold, Silver, and Crystal, the beloved Generation 2. Hi, my name is Code Pika, and welcome to a brand new year of PikaViews, as we talk about the Generation 2 of the Pokemon series. Let's get started. Pokemon Gold and Silver was released in Japan on November 21st, 1999, and soon released over to North America on October 15th, 2000s. The upgraded version of Pokemon Crystal is the one we'll be focusing on, which was released on December 14th, 2000s, and North America July 29th, 2001. During the time of almost being released, we over in the West was able to watch the Pokemon the first movie. Now, the first movie actually introduced three Gen 2 Pokemons, which were Snubbull, Marill, and Donphan. But it was actually the anime that ended up introducing us to Generation 2 Pokemons right off the bat. We ended up having Ho-Oh in the first episode, and then we also end up having Togepi that ended up hatching from an egg during the anime's run of the first season. Anyways, let's end up talking about the setting of Generation 2. So Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal takes place in the land of Johto, a new sort of world of the Pokemon series. We play as the protagonist Gold or Ethan, or Chris or Lyra. These two undergo a task for Professor Elm, who asks the trainer if they can visit Mr. Pokemon. Giving the trainer three choices, we have Cyndaquil, the fire-type Pokemon, easy to use, and allows the trainer to breeze through a few of the gyms. Totodile, the water-type Pokemon, little of the same as Cyndaquil and doesn't really have much of an advantage or disadvantage. And the last Pokemon, and what I end up considering the hard mode of the game, Chikorita, the grass-type Pokemon. Now, I've used Chikorita back in my Gold and Silver days, and still do, as I've enjoyed the status effect metagame in the series. Using debuffs like Poison Power allows you to wear down the opponent, and considering there are times this can be used as a win move, I always end up getting those powder moves on me, you know what I mean? After you end up picking your starter, you can head to the left to proceed to meet with Mr. Pokemon himself. You also get to meet with Professor Oak, who hands you a brand new Pokedex to capture data of the Johto Pokemon of the world. Once rested, you receive an urgent phone call from the professor, who explains that somebody's stolen one of his Pokemons. You rush back immediately home, but before you can make it back, you're stopped by a mysterious trainer who goes by the name of Silver. Silver will use the stolen Pokemon and battle you. This can catch you off guard, as you're not really expecting such a battle, so be sure to level up a bit before taking on this surprise fight. With Silver taken out, you head back to the lab and meet with the police. You inform the officer that Silver was the boy who stole the Pokemon, and I'm gonna just say this right now, they do nothing throughout the entirety of the game because you'll never see that cop ever again. But they will stop you if you decide to be roaming around at night for some reason, so hey, at least they're doing something, I guess. After you end up showing the egg that you received from Mr. Pokemon to Professor Elm, he's ecstatic and essentially encourages you to undergo the gym challenge. Yep, and once you end up saying goodbye to your mom, you end up doing the same exact thing as you did with Generation 1. See, the thing is that Generation 2 is a sequel to Generation 1, it's taking place 3 years after the events of Team Rocket and also after the events of Red's adventure. You end up doing the same exact thing as you did in Generation 1, where you go through all 8 of the gyms and then basically take on the Elite Four and become the champion of that region. It's the same song and dance for every single Pokemon game, it's just that sometimes there's just certain things that are different in between to be happening. So I'm not gonna really beat a dead horse over it. Your guys already know how the gym battles go. Boom, bam, biggity bam, you did them, you're doing them, and that's it. Bada bing. Now, even though I did say that you are doing the same song and dance, you do still have some major villains to fight. Except this time, since I said it is a sequel of Generation 1, you are going to be fighting Team Rocket yet again. When you end up going into the second gym, you end up finding that Team Rocket is trying to utilize Slowpoke tails to be able to sell them to retailers. I have no idea why they're trying to do that. It really doesn't really make any sense, but apparently the Slowpoke tails ends up selling for quite a lot. So, yippee, I guess. Team Rocket this time around are trying to rebuild their team again, and also trying to get Giovanni back on their side, But the dude's kind of gone and disbanded after getting beaten by a 10-year-old. In all honesty, if I got beaten by a 10-year-old and had my entire gang got wiped out by a 10-year-old, yeah, I would like call it quits too. Like, I lost like 3 times. Like, I lost in my casino, I lost in the Silvco company, and I lost in my own gym. Bro, I'm done. You cooked me so badly, I don't even want to be here anymore. So these random grunts, we're not playing the remix, so they ain't got no names. These random no-name grunts wants to end up using the Goldenrod radio tower to utilize its radio waves to be able to contact Giovanni once again. The only interesting thing that they do in this is actually in Mahogany Town. In Mahogany Town, you end up finding out that Team Rocket is utilizing radio pulse waves to enrage the Magikarp in Lake of Rage, which is, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, you call it Lake of Rage, of course they're going to be angry. Why would they not be angry? Let's be real here. It's called Lake of Rage. What are you doing? Anywho, this Magikarp becomes so pissed off that it evolves into a Gyarados forcibly. And not only that, it also gets itself a new shiny coat of color. It ends up looking red, and this is the introduction of shiny Pokemons. Shiny Pokemons are pretty rare encounters that you can end up finding throughout the game, and they are essentially half bragging rights and half a big deal depending on the kind of player you are. Some players nowadays end up doing challenge runs where they try to end up getting a shiny for their starter and also shiny throughout the entirety of their adventure. These can be very much a pain in the ass, as shiny encounter rates are very low. If you're lucky to actually find a shiny, especially if it's the one that you specifically want, hey, kudos, congratulations, you actually are having a very good advantage. It also sucks though that Gyarados is the first shiny Pokemon to be introduced here, because if you're a person who likes Magikarp and decides to find a shiny Magikarp and you end up accidentally I say accidentally, of course you're going to evolve into a Gyarados. If you evolve it into a Gyarados, any other subsequential, well, I should more so say only in Gen 2 and its remake, people will probably be like, it's not really a shiny, you got that off of Lake of Rage. Even though, to be honest, you can kind of end up disapproving that by just showing where you found the Magikarp, because in all honesty, that's probably the only way you're going to disprove it, because there's no other way you can disprove it. If you do not show like, hey, I found this Pokemon in this place, this is real, damn, jeez. But no, that's pretty much all they really do. You end up getting the help of Lance, who is the champion of Johto, shocker, and he essentially ends up helping you out by taking out the radio tower in Mahogany Town. After he does that, he just kind of goes away. You don't see Lance anymore until the finale of the game, when you end up facing him as a champion. And that's it. After you've taken out that, you end up taking the gym out in Mahogany Town. And then you end up getting a call from Professor Elm, who ends up warning you that there's something strange happening on the radio station where Team Rocket is trying to call Giovanni again. You go there, back to Goldenrod, to take them out, and then that's it. That's pretty much it. They just get disbanded and nothing else really happens. And yeah, that's kind of just very insignificant of how Team Rocket is. And it's so weird too, because in a future game, I feel that they do this a little bit better with Team Rocket in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I kind of give it a little bit of a pass, because let's be real here, this is Team Rocket trying to... It's interesting, because even though these no-name characters do get names in the remake, I like to think that they're so incompetent that they have zero clue as to how to make a comeback. And they desperately need Giovanni, or else they are not useful whatsoever. And it shows too, because 90% of their Pokemons are usually just Raticates using Hyper Fang all the goddamn time, and most of it is just Rattatas, and that's it. So there's that. So let's talk about the legendary Pokemons. This time around, rather than having 3 birds and 1 powerful Pokemon living inside a cave, we now have the Pokemon Box exclusive. For Silver, you can get the Pokemon Lugia, and for Gold, you get the Pokemon Ho-Oh. These two have lore that explains how both of them used to live near each other. Lugia, the Guardian of the Sea, used to live in Etritic City Tower Brass Tower, while Ho-Oh, the Guardian of the Skies, lives in the Bell Tower. but sadly a tragedy unfolded that caused a lightning to strike the brass tower, causing the tower to be consumed by flames. Lugia tried its best to save the tower from the fire, but was not successful. This caused 3 unnamed Pokemon to be trapped and killed in the fire. Thankfully, Ho-Oh descended and used its power to reborn the 3 nameless Pokemons into what we know as the legendary beasts, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. This caused both Ho-Oh and the beast to scatter as the humans disliked what power Ho-Oh possessed. This is pretty interesting as this ended up taking place 500 years ago in Etritic City and also in Johto region as a whole. It would be nice if at some point Game Freak tries to delve into this, because as a person who did love Pokemon Legends Arceus, seeing the past versions of places in Pokemon will be very interesting. Like, you know, like Mewtwo, for instance, like the war that end up happening in Pokemon X and Y, like situations that probably end up transpiring with like the Guardians of Alola. Like, it would be very interesting to see these past games, and I kind of wish that that is what they did more with the Legend series. I didn't mind ZA for us going a bit forward into the future, but even I would admit I didn't really see much else as to what happened in the future. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I do want to make that its own video, but Pokemon ZA being into the far future, we didn't really see much else as to what transpired in the Kalos region. You know what I mean? We were only stuck in the city, so we couldn't really see what else was happening like outside the areas. You know what I mean? But hey, that's for a future video. For right now, we're talking about the Johtos, and we're talking about this right now. So once you end up defeating the Elite Four and manage to defeat the champion, you end up becoming the champion of the Johto region. So what do you do now? The credits have rolled and your journey is over. Well, guess what, folks? You got yourself... That's right, you got yourself some post-game in you. The post-game is basically going back to Kanto. I know I'm sounding like that. You end up going back to Kanto. After end up successfully defeating the Elite Four and becoming champion of the Johto region, you end up getting yourself a ticket from Professor Elm, which is the SSN ticket. You end up taking the SSN and boom bam biggity bam, welcome to Kanto. Yep, and it's all Kanto for the most part. Half of it is kind of like chopped down, because let's be real here, even though they managed to successfully put the Kanto region and 2 regions into the game, mind you, which they'll never end up doing again, they managed to do this for the Game Boy Color and Game Boy. So that's pretty impressive. You got to give them some props for that, you know, for what it is, for what it's worth, you know. So what exactly do you do in the Kanto area of the game? Well, you just do the alright, so there is actually a plot that's happening in this. You do have to fix the radio tower in Lavender Town. Yeah, they actually turned the tower, the place that was like the resting ground for all the Pokemons, into a radio tower. And then it got friggin' like disconnected. Shocker to nobody. Anyways, a power supply got taken. You had to find this power supply in Cerulean City. You end up fighting the guy. He ends up basically realizing that Team Rocket has been disbanded after you tell him, and he ends up leaving. This guy is bad at Japanese, and he's trying to speak very good English. The translation of this makes no sense. Because he's trying to speak broken English even though he's an American. Yeah, he's an American Team Rocket member. You find that out when you play Pokemon Black and White. I don't know why I had to mention that. Anyways, you get the part back, you fix the radio tower, you get the radio station, so that way you can play the Pokemon Lullaby or the Pokemon Flute, so Snorlax, so that way you can wake it up. Now, you're doing the same exact thing as Red did by challenging all 8 of the gym leaders. Yes, you have 16 gyms this time around. You don't have the measly 8. You have 16 lovable gyms. And once you end up managing to complete all 8 gyms, you manage to end up getting access to Mount Silver, which is essentially the final area of the game where you'll have your final battle. There's not much for me to really say on this because the final battle is against you, the player. Kinda. You're just versusing Red, who I actually thought was Ash at the time because I was like, oh, look, he has a Pikachu. Yeah, I don't know why I auto-assumed that him just having Pikachu just automatically. You have to admit, like, of course I was going to think it was Ash. I was watching the anime more than reading the mangas or knowing the lore. I forgot his name was Red. Red ends up sporting a level 81 Pikachu, which means nothing because it's an 81 Pikachu, and it's also still a Pikachu at the end of the day, so it still gets rocked in the face by Earthquake. But he ends up having both the evolution of Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle. Ends up rocking a Lapras and a Snorlax, and that's pretty much it. Sometimes he can end up having himself an Espeon. Well, in fact, that is actually what he's had. I think Lapras is his remake team, but I could be wrong. Anywho, once he ended defeating Red, that's pretty much it. In fact, it's so weird of how it ends because Red just kind of just disappears. I don't know what happens to him. He just runs away or something. Or, well, I mean, to be fair, he wiped out. So he probably blacked out and scurried back to the gym or back to the Pokemon Center. So that's probably what happened. Damn, that's messed up. Do we just get like deleted when that happens? Damn, that's like cold. You know, you gotta admit, that is some pretty cold stuff. That is pretty much it for Generation 2. There's not really much for me to really talk about. I think Generation 2 has done a lot for a lot of people. For one thing, it came at a very good moment for people who wanted to get into the series and for people who really, really enjoyed the nostalgic trip of going back to Kanto to see what it was like in 3 years after the events of Blue, Red, and Yellow. So, in my opinion, when I first got into Kanto as a kid, it was pretty nice to be able to end up seeing Vermilion City, the music being obviously remixed for it and everything. It was so nice. It was like, and then when you get into a random encounter, you end up getting the original Kanto battle theme, and then when you fight the gym leader, you get the original gym leader theme. There's a lot of things that were just pretty cool for the time. Does it still hold up? The original, not so much. I only like it because of the sprites. I'm not really big on the mechanics that were, in the game. In fact, the one criticism I could say for Gen 2, and they kind of do give a reason for this as to why it's like that, there's not a lot of Johto Pokemons. I know, not a lot of Johto Pokemons in the Johto region. Who would have thought? Seriously though, it is pretty weird. Like, it was really difficult for me to try to build a team. And what is even worse is that the Johto Pokemons in the game are, in my opinion, not really great. Like, the movesets that they get is not great. The requirements to get some of them is not great. And since Crystal has like different distributions of certain Pokemons are unfortunately missing. Like, they do still have Wooper, which I'm glad, except you can only encounter at night, which is dumb. They have Heracross, which you can end up encountering by using Headbutt, which is a bit of a pain in the ass because it only shows up in certain trees, which is dumb. You also have the only flying type you have. Well, you technically have two. You have Skarmory, which you don't even get until later in the game, and Hoot Hoot, which it's not even great. It's not even a great flying type Pokemon, guys. Just get Pidgey. Pidgeot is better than Hoot Hoot. Yeah, I said it. I like Pidgeot. Pidgeot is better than friggin' Noctowl. Even though Noctowl was shiny for Ash in the anime, I don't care. Noctowl sucks. I don't know. So yeah, I tried my best to create this Johto team, and if you look at the list of Pokemon that I have, bro, they are booty cheeks. It was easier for me to make Kanto Pokemons, even though it's kind of like dumb to say that, considering the fact that the Kanto Pokemons are obviously, they're the only ones that exist. But what's even worse is that majority of the Johto Pokemons that you want to meet, like Mischievous, Houndour, and them, you need to be in Kanto. And you need to beat the game. But you see some of these Pokemons here that the gym leaders or the Team Rocket members have. You've seen Houndour, so you're interested, like, oh, I want to get Houndour. It's like, you can't find them in Johto. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you just can't find them. Like, I'm sorry, you can't. And then, mind you, you never see Mischievous until later. And then it's like, oh man, I want a Mischievous. You gotta get to Kanto. I'm like, why? Why do you do this? Sneasel? Kanto. Larvitar? Kanto. I found Sneasel and Larvitar to be worse, because Larvitar and Sneasel can only be encountered in friggin' Mountain Silver, and by that point, you're already done with the game. But that is something that they fixed in the remake, because they have a Safari Zone, which allows you to end up finding these Pokemon that you will otherwise find in the Kanto region early. Which I do like, so I'm glad that they did fix it, but it still kind of sucks that there's not a lot of Johto Pokemons, but maybe it's because of the fact that their movesets is just booty cheeks. I don't know. Maybe it's just that. But overall, that's pretty much it. That's my only nitpick of Generation 2, if I'm being honest, is just that the distribution of Johtomons is a bit lacking. And unfortunately, Team Rocket doesn't really do much except for being incompetent fools that don't really know how to do anything if they do not have a boss. Overall, though, I will end up saying this. I'm finally glad to be back into doing these things. I know that the structure is a bit different, and I like it this way. It's still scripty, kinda. It's not really 100% scripted, but it's a bit of a whole, I want to just talk about the games, rather than trying to focus too much. Like, obviously, I don't want to go too much on tangents, of course, but when I do, I want to. But overall, I hope you kind of like how this is. If you don't really like it, please leave a comment down below. Like the video if you think it's interesting to you. But, you know, more so comment. I do like to end up responding to people nowadays because it's fun, you know. We're in a new year, and I know that there are some things that are happening currently right now. But all I know is that we can do our best. We can do it. We can just push on through. You got your friends. You got your family. You got your loved ones. Do whatever you can to be able to strive. And if you want to express yourself more, do so. Don't let you be the blockade to your progress. Anyways, I've been Pika, and let's make 2026 a good one. Catch you guys in the next video. Laters.